Welcome to Plain Talk, where the federal government may be shut down, but we're still showing up for work here at Plain Talk. I was off last week. First of all, thank you, Chad, for sitting in. Two great shows. I listened to them. Super interesting. You guys did a great job, had great conversations. You and the governor managed to avoid dunking on me.
Yeah, we talked about it afterwards. We were at an event together on Friday, and we both agreed that we missed a real opportunity to say you're wrong on cell phone bans. But hey, before we leave it though, how was the wedding?
Wedding was great. Everyone came out of it married, and and it did really good. Anyway, we have a guest, special guest on the show, Mr. Steve Forbes, editor-in-chief of Forbes magazine, two-time presidential candidate, podcast host of What's Ahead with Steve Forbes, joining us on the show today. Now, the reason he's on, he's going to be delivering a speech, part of the Menard Family Distinguished Speaker Series for the Challey Institute at North Dakota State University. The title of his presentation is Prosperity Through Economic Freedom. And by the way, if you want to get more information about that, if you go to ndsu.edu/Challey Institute, that's CHALLEY Institute, you could find all the information about the events and the other great work that they're doing there. Mr. Forbes, welcome to Plain Talk. Thank you for being on.
Good to be with you. Thank you.
I wanted to talk a little bit today about because first of all, I'm a lifelong Republican and a conservative, and I have spent my life believing in the things that people like you, other thought leaders like Milt Friedman think about economic policy. You have been an inspiration and a guiding light through a lot of this. But I look at the Republican Party in America right now, and I wonder if they still believe some of these things, particularly when it comes to policy areas like tariffs. Speak a little bit about where the Republican Party is right now when it comes to economic freedom.
Well, I think right now we've got some things that have been going well. Getting that tax cuts saved, that big, beautiful bill, which also includes some tax cuts, is going to be very, very good for the economy. The deregulation part, which is essential, it's one of those unglamorous things, but has been crushing the American economy for decades. They're making immensely good progress there at the EPA, at the Energy Department, the Interior Department, and trying to reduce the rules that are crushing business. But you hit on something very important with tariffs, and that is that tariff is another word for tax. And when you impose a tax, you are imposing a barrier of sorts between buyer, seller, producer, and consumer. And so we have trade problems, but I think you should deal with the trade problems that we've had in a laser-like fashion, instead of these uncertain on-again, off-again sweeping tariffs, and which are sort of slowing the economy. And yes, they're bringing in revenue, but they're slowing the economy. And so I hope we get clarity on that. I think the Supreme Court is going to throw out a lot of those tariffs because their taxes have to go through Congress, and most of those haven't gone through that kind of process. And so that's not. I hope they clear that up, because that's a big weight. Another big weight, while we're talking on it, is the state of the dollar. The dollar is weak right now. Both the administration and the Federal Reserve think a weak dollar is good, because they think that improves the trade balance. The George W. Bush administration thought that in the early part of this century, and we saw where that led in the crisis of 2008, 2009. Great countries don't trash their money. And the other thing, finally, while we're on this subject, you got me going, is we don't need price controls on medicines. There are various ways to deal with the healthcare crisis, but government control shouldn't be one of them. We see where that has led to Europe.
So thanks for being on, Mr. Forbes. Unlike Rob, I'm actually left of center, so maybe you have some different perspectives on the role of government. But you mentioned healthcare, and I want to talk a little bit about that. We had the North Dakota Insurance Commissioner on probably a month ago or so, talking about the huge increases that we're going to be seeing in premium costs, partly because of just the market, but partly because of the big, beautiful bill and some of the changes there. And he really laid the problem on the feet of healthcare providers who have no transparency. I mean, Rob did a story about the fact that you go to a hospital in Minot, they charge one thing, and then you go to another hospital, they charge you twice as much, and you have no way of knowing that before you go to the hospital. The free market isn't working if I can't figure out how much I'm getting charged for a heart surgery, because I just need a heart surgery and the hospital is going to charge me whatever they want. But what that's leading to is health insurance premiums for business owners and employees to be skyrocketing, so they have less money to spend on things like entrepreneurship. Can you talk about, I mean, to me, it seems like forcing transparency from hospitals is a good regulation for consumers.
Well, you hit on something very important in healthcare, and that is there are no real free markets in healthcare. We have a strange system. Nobody designed it, but it is all based on third parties. That is insurance companies, and then the big ones, Medicare and Medicaid. And so the patient is not in charge of the healthcare market. So it would be like going to a restaurant where the patron, the customer, is not in charge. You know you're going to get a mess. And so we have a system that has probably cost twice as much as it should. And the way around it is to get control of those healthcare dollars to the patient. So you make the decision, not the other way around. And the proof of it is the lousiest, hospitals know they get their revenue not by pleasing you, but by how well they negotiate with insurance companies and with the government at various levels. And the proof of it is the lousiest motel in America wouldn't dare put you in a room with another guest, with a curtain in between and the other guest being sick, which is what you have in most hospitals, which is ridiculous. So the way you get around that is various things. One is health savings accounts, which are good, but they have a lot of restrictions on them. And companies, as we've tried to do at Forbes, companies should be putting more of the money in the hands of you, the consumer. So you choose what insurance company you want, not what the employer wants. The hospitals and the providers give you the prices up front. And I'll give you one example. There's a hospital in Oklahoma called the Surgery Center of Oklahoma. Very successful, been around for 20 years, board certified surgeons. But the amazing thing is, and it sounds counterintuitive, but the amazing thing is they don't take insurance. You pay cash up front. They post all their prices online. You want to do something with your shoulder, you go online and they lay it all out. And if the procedure happens to cost more than what they priced, they eat the extra cost. And because they're a lean operation, their prices are 1/3 of what other hospitals charge for similar procedures, and their outcomes are as good or better than other hospitals. So when patients control the money and you have pricing transparency, you start to get a real free market, which means you get what free markets are supposed to be: productivity and more and better, and ultimately at less price. But don't say we don't have free markets in healthcare now. Definitely not. You, the patient, are not in charge.
As you can imagine, North Dakota, very agriculture-driven place. Historically, it's energy and agriculture. It's what we do here. Our farmers are pretty worried. Our agriculture commissioner, Doug Goring, was speaking before in an interim legislative committee recently, and he was saying that we're below break-even prices for things like soybeans, things like corn. And he is saying that the problem is, obviously part of the problem is trade. These tariffs are creating some problems, and people who used to, on the international markets, who used to buy our crops are maybe finding other sources for our crops. He's part of the problem, but he said really the larger part is costs for farmers are going through the roof. Inflation is killing them. He says that it's not so much where the crop prices are, because we've survived at those crop prices before. It's where the break-even points are, because the costs to the farmers is going even higher. And this is what he said. He said tariffs add more costs, which continue to inflate the price of goods and services. And he said even a situation, I know President Trump is trying to pressure the Federal Reserve into lowering interest rates. And our ag commissioner says if you drop interest rates, you actually boost inflation. And he said, I'll tell you another issue, interest rates. And I've had producers say we need lower interest rates. And I'll tell you, you could give them money free and they still wouldn't make it. So how much of this situation that our farmers are facing is driven by, I mean, obviously our ag commissioner is saying this is a problem with tariffs and inflation. Do you agree?
Tariffs are a tax, and a tax means that tax is a cost. So yes, tariffs are disruptive to supply chains, and they talk about are tariffs good or bad? Tariffs are taxes, and you can have taxes that minimize harm, and you can have taxes that do immense harm. And so tariffs are doing real harm to the economy, I think. And I'm not buying the happy talk from Washington on that. And the uncertainty of the tariffs hurt, but also the Federal Reserve. It's not just the level of interest rates; it's the weakening of the dollar. When the dollar becomes weak, things become more expensive. And unfortunately, both the Federal Reserve and our Treasury Department are making the same mistake we made 20 years ago under a Republican, George W. Bush. The belief that if you gradually weaken the dollar, you'll improve our trade balance and that'll be good. But whenever you lower the value of the dollar, you get repercussions in the rest of the economy. And you've outlined one area where you're getting bad repercussions. And so stable, strong dollar, great countries don't have weak currencies. And so I wish the White House would make it clear we don't want a weak dollar. We want a strong and stable dollar. And when you do that, interest rates come down. You don't get monetary inflation. But you'd think after 4,000 years of experience with inflation, not to mention our experiences in recent years, our authorities would have learned something, but they haven't. That's one reason why I co-authored a book called Inflation, What It Is, Why It's Bad, and How to Fix It. And some lessons have to be relearned. So, yes, we've got some problems. The nice thing is these problems can be cured. We've done it before, and I hope we do it soon again. But on the tariff front, I think the Supreme Court hopefully will be helpful in knocking out about 70% of them that have not gone through Congress or gone through a proper regulatory process. And I hope people hammer home. Taxes are a price, and we have trade issues, but we've been reducing trade barriers one sort or another since World War II. And that's what should be focused on, laser-like specific barriers, and deal with them that way instead of these sweeping tax increases. Republicans should not be in favor of tax increases.
It seems like neither party really much cares about the national debt. It doesn't matter who's in charge. It continues to go up. We saw it with the big, beautiful bill. We saw it during the Biden administration. Also, I don't think the public cares about the national debt. How concerned should they be about the national debt and deficit?
Well, the national debt is a result of bad dollar policy, bad spending policy, bad tax policy. So it's a result of bad policy. And the way you deal with it is you don't raise taxes and things like that. You get the economy growing. After World War II, for example, our national debt proportionate to the size of the economy was higher then than it is today. But but what we did was we had sensible spending policies. In the 60s, we reduced taxes. And by the end of the 1960s, not to bore you with numbers, but the national debt had gone from 121% of GDP down to about 35%. And that's how you deal with it. Unfortunately, starting in the 70s, we took the dollar off the gold standard. So it's fallen about 90% in value since then. And we haven't, recent times, we've not done right by the dollar, we've not done right by regulations, and we've not done right by taxes. And hopefully we can tackle those things. Because, talking about healthcare, if you get the government running healthcare, just look at our friends in Canada. You wait 9 months for acute surgery for a knee or a hip. You wait months to see a doctor. That's not what we want here.
I wanted to ask, talking about the national debt, you've said a couple times, we can't raise taxes. And trust me, I don't want taxes to go up. But one thing that bothers me is we seem to be giving Americans, like, if I want to eat steak for dinner every night, that's fine. I can make that choice, but I'm going to pay for it at the grocery store, right? So I don't eat steak for dinner every night. Sometimes I have salad, sometimes I have chicken because it's cheaper. I can't afford to eat steak every night. And I feel like the problem we have right now is that the American people want to eat steak every night, and then they want to be on a chicken budget. And I feel like Washington's delivering that, and we're financing it with massive budget deficits. In fact, for all the talk with Doge and everything else, it looks like the first year of the Trump administration, we're on course for another budget deficit that's going to measure in the ballpark of about $2 trillion, which is just an astounding amount of money. And so I guess, is there a point, Steve, at which the message has to be to Americans, listen, if you want all this government, you have to pay for it. I mean, I believe in the marketplace. You believe in the marketplace. You've been advocating for this your whole life. Is there a point at which we just have to tell the American people, we have to price government appropriately? If you want this level of government, you have to pay for it.
Well, I think the American people know the situation in Washington is not good. And part of the, but it's just saying, you can't have, what are you going to tell people? The big expenses for government are, a couple of the biggies are Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. And you try to tell somebody on Medicare you're going to take away some of their benefits. Good luck with that. And so instead of these frontal trench warfare approaches, which is like doing a root canal without anesthesia, you do it by changing the dynamic of healthcare, where the patient is in charge, and you stop this crazy, unnecessary skyrocketing of 10-20% increases each year. One of the big reasons why drugs are expensive as they are is something called pharmaceutical benefit managers, PBMs, which buy the drugs from the drug company, and then they provide them to hospitals and pharmacies. And they are not necessary for the most part. I'm being blunt about it. And they are, that's 30, 40, 50% of a drug care costs that really are not necessary. And the way in, so we should be tackling that. Having patients being able to shop for health care. So you can compare prices. I'll give you one story. Several years ago, a guy in New Hampshire that I knew had a heart condition. And so he went to the cardiologist. And one of the things the cardiologist suggested was what they call a nuclear stress test, where they put some, dye in or whatever. Anyway, the patient asked, what's it going to cost? And the doc said, I have no idea. Insurance will probably cover it. Well, this guy, being a good entrepreneur, put together a team, and after great effort, found out the prices from 25 different hospitals and clinics for this procedure, done the same way everywhere, in 25 different clinics and hospitals in the New England area. And he found the prices ranged from $1,450 to $7,300, same procedure. Now, you could never do that in the free market where you have a normal market, because people would see, why are they charging $5 for a hamburger, and the next door they're charging $100 for the same hamburger? You'd say that's nuts, and it wouldn't happen for long. So that's how you have to deal with it, is realize we have systemic problems. Patients don't control healthcare. Patients don't control education. Parents don't control education. I think that's beginning to change with educational savings accounts. But where you don't have a real consumer market, you get these crazy things like we have with healthcare, where you pay more and you don't really get more. It's kind of shocking when you think of it, that if you go to the hospital, most hospitals, they do great work. I've been a beneficiary a number of times at my age. But you have to have an advocate there. You have to have a relative or a friend who sort of makes sure everything goes right. And so the answer is not more government. The answer is rely on people. And that's what I've been advocating. By the way, on the tax side, I've been long advocating getting rid of this crazy tax code, 10 million plus words that nobody knows what's in. It's a cesspool of corruption, political corruption. I used to say we should bury it, but the EPA wouldn't allow it since it's so toxic. But anyway, put in a simple single rate system. There'd be deductions for adults and for children, and that's it. And you take a family of four, your first $54,000 of income would be free of federal income tax. Imagine that. And only 17 cents on the dollar above that, and you could fill out the form either on a sheet of paper or a few keystrokes on your PC, and you're done with it. Several countries have done it successfully, and we should do the same. Instead of spending 8 billion hours a year filling out tax forms, and the costs of complying with this code, the last estimate I saw, both on dollars spent and time spent, is a staggering number. You can't even grasp it. Is almost $500 billion. Total waste of money and time.
Hey, Steve, can you talk a little bit about the stock market? Obviously, we've had a good year here, but it seems like there's some concern that you have about the underlying economies around the world and in the U.S., spending being sort of propped up by government. Are we going to reach a bubble? Is something going to pop here? Or do you have an optimistic sort of outlook on where the stock market is going?
Well, there used to be a phrase, stocks climb walls of worry. The time you have to worry is when people think stocks are going great. And maybe we're in that period now. But some of the market is richly priced. But if you had a booming economy, that would be okay. But we don't have a booming economy. And if we don't shore up the dollar, if we don't do some other things like further cuts in taxes, the market may take a hit. But the thing I want to emphasize, especially for younger people, for your 401k, your IRA, whatever plan you have, don't try to time the market. Just keep putting in your money each month or quarter or twice a month or whatever your schedule is, and leave it alone. And put it in a couple of good index funds with low fees, and over time you will beat the market. Don't try to be a market timer with your retirement account. So it may take a hit sometimes, but it always comes back.
Well, Mr. Forbes, I really appreciate you coming on. I've spent my whole life following your work and following your arguments on this stuff. I agree with you. We can prosper through economic freedom. That's the title of the presentation you're going to be giving at North Dakota State University. It starts at 5:30 p.m. on October 23rd. Once again, if you go to ndsu.edu/Challey Institute, you can find out information, how to get tickets, how to get there, and all the other great work that the Challey Institute does. Mr. Forbes, thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for your time, and look forward to seeing you in a few days. Thank you.